Well, as the weekend has just begun, that means we're going to be having a bit of a smaller review. Well, not that small. So today, as you know, I mentioned on the last episode, I was unable to see Ring of Honor Final Battle. Well, luckily for everyone on this channel, I get to review it for this episode today. But however, I decided also to review AEW Collision. Now, I was planning for other wrestling reviews that I was planning on, but due to the circumstances from other things outside that I do of this channel, prevent me to do that. But luckily, I was able to do this one instead. So we're just gonna review Ring of Honor Final Battle, and of course AEW Collision. However, there is no news updates for this particular, so it's just plain old reviews. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay right here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews, not only from promotions here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos where we talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want. If, however, I'm unable to put a news update on this episode, even though I'm not doing it on this one, I'll do it on a separate timing. And also, we do some news updates and various other cool stuff. So, if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So, click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool stuff on this channel. And also, if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, let's begin with Ring of Honor's last pay per view of the year. We're talking about Final Battle. Now, normally we don't do the 0 hour, but since it's the end of the year, so screw it. Our opening match, we have Jasmine Allure taking on Taya Valkyrie. Now, this is Jasmine Allure's debut match, and of course, Taya has been accompanied by her husband, Johnny TV. Now, you probably can guess this match was definitely going to go with Taya Valkyrie, which it did when she applied a curb stomp, and it was over. So it was good night, Jasmine. Next up, as you know, we were in Texas country, which is Von Erich country. Ross and Marshall Von Erich taking on the Outrunners. I thought it was a pretty good match. I mean, the Outrunners claim that they bump into them many years ago. So they basically went on a time warp and they still remain the same. But however, that scenario changed when both Ross and Marshall applied a stereo Iron Claw on both Outrunners and picked up the win. However, at the post match, as you know, we have their father, one of the last remaining brothers of the Von Erich family of that time, Kevin Von Erich. So, of course, they get the standing ovation since it is Von Erich country in Texas. Next up, we have Brian Keith, the bounty hunter, taking on Jack Cartwheel. So it's interesting to see Brian Keith be in this one, but he pulled off in a pretty impressive match. Don't forget, Brian Keith is a native from Texas, but he picked up a good win when he applied a Tiger Driver, and it was over right from there. Now, Tony Khan came around doing a little saying hi to everyone. As you know, Final Battle does have a bit of significant history with certain individual, especially one of the late the late Jay Briscoe. As you know, Briscoe and Bryan Danielson tore it up the first time together. And of course, how can we forget last year was the last time we saw, um, Jay Briscoe in that amazing dog collar match. And the year before that, it's what started the trilogy between both the Briscoes and FTR. So there's a lot of history. So I'm sure everybody probably gets emotional from that. So we'll see what happens until then. Now our main event, in fact, on this the last match of this one in the 0 hour, we have Daniel Garcia versus Blake Christian. Now we have seen how slick Blake Christian can be in the ring, but however, it was Daniel Garcia that put him in his Scorpion Deathlock and then later stretched it more, forcing him to tap. Now, before the final moments of the 0 hour, Tony Khan was talking, and then here comes Eddie Kingston asking how come there's no match for him. However, here comes Anthony Henry decided, you know what, I'm free, so let's do. So it ended up being a proving grounds match, and luckily Tony Khan was there. He, of course, accepted it. Now, our next match, our opening match of the main card of Final Battle, we have the AAA Mega Championship. Black Taurus as the challenger taking on Hijo del Vikingo. Now, we're going to see high spectacular moments with Vikingo. I mean, the guy is insane, but phenomenal when it comes to do his little aerial stuff. But it was the 630 that put away Black Taurus in order for him to retain the title. Now, our next match is for the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team titles. We have TMDK, Costa Fujita, Shane Hayes, and Mikey Nichols taking on the Mogul Embassy, Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and Teo Leona. Now, you probably can guess that this is going to be a tough battle. However, it was Brian Cage who put away Fujita in order for them to retain their belts. Now, next up is a rivalry that has been taking a toll. It's an I Quit match between Tony Nese and Ethan Page. Now, since Ethan Page arrived in Ring of Honor, Smart Marcel tried to get him to be part of his little posse. But however, Ethan Page did not want nothing to do. But however, Tony Nese was determined to destroy him for that. And not to mention, this match became personal. However, that dumbass weasel Sterling refused to get himself handcuffed, but luckily, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, showed up and laid down the law and put him in handcuffs. Now, this match was so brutal, so determined. However, somehow Tony Nese got the key and freed Sterling, and then of course they were gonna handcuff Ethan Page so Tony Nese can squash him with a dumbbell. However, luckily, Ethan Page's friend and tag partner, Scorpio Sky, showed up and took care of business with that weasel Sterling. And then, of course, we did see Nese handcuff them this time, but he told him to quit, and then he told him to F yourself. And that's exactly what it did. But uh, Ethan Page was able to get out of the handcuffs, but he used the chain of the handcuffs in order to choke out Tony Nese, and of course force him to say I quit. So basically, this war is finally over. Ethan Page can move on where he needs to go now. Next match, we have the Native Beast, Nyla Rose taking on Vixen. It was a pretty good match. Now, there were some attempts by Nyla Rose to apply the Beast Bomb, but it failed. However, there's always that one moment where Nyla Rose is going to apply the Beast Bomb, which she did and picked up the win. Next up, we have the Survival of the Fittest match for the Ring of Honor World Television title that's been vacant. We have Dalton Castle versus Lee Moriarty versus Kyle Fletcher versus Lee Johnson versus what's his name? Brian Keith. And I forgot who was the other one. Oh yeah, and Commander. Now, this is how the whole elimination went down. Lee Moriarty eliminated Lee Johnson when he applied the Border City stretch. Then he eliminated Dalton Castle, all thanks to the interference of Johnny TV. And then after that, Brian Keith eliminates Moriarty with the Tiger Driver. And then finally, Fletcher eliminates Keith with the Hammerlock. And then it was Fletcher and Commander. Once again, the Hammerlock Power Driver sealed the deal for him to become the brand new ROH World Television Champion. Now, our next match, we have the Ring of Honor Pure title. Now, Tom Lawler, as you know, he knows more about grappling and pure wrestling than we know. However, Wheeler Yuta, who claims that he is all honorable, even though we know what a garbage he can be, he in fact was able to pick up the win when he applied the seatbelt. However, Tom Lawler's feet were in the rope. Ref didn't see it, but then, of course, once again, the so-called man who's honorable decided to attack Tom Lawler, but luckily Hook came about, and then of course as you know, there's been tensions between them. I wouldn't be surprised if Hook challenged him for the pure title. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, these guys, this is a special singles match between two friends who now seem they're at odds with each other. We're talking about Shane Taylor and Keith Lee. Now, you know this is the Battle of the Haas. Two big individuals. This was one of those matches is going to be interesting to see. But it was Brian Keith with, I believe it was a jackhammer. I'm not sure if that was it. He put away Shane Taylor to pick up the win. And then they Lee extended his hand to Taylor, putting their paths behind them. Now, during an interview with Brian Keith, as you know, he still is there to collect. Brian Keith is there to collect. However, Orange Cassidy laid out the challenge for him for the international title, which will happen on Collision, and we'll get to that. Now, our next match was supposed to be a fight to honor Jay White between the FTR and the Briscoes to take on the members of the BCC. We're talking about Moxley, Danielson, and Claudio. However, at some point when we were close to 18 and a half minutes, it ended up in a double countout. But however, this did not sit well for Briscoe, so he decided, let's restart this and turn it into anything goes match, which is called in their terms fight without honor. And that's exactly what happened. You know, it was going to be brutal. It was going to be hectic no matter what was going to happen. But luckily, it was Mark Briscoe with the J Driller onto Brian Danielson onto the chairs to give him and FTR the win. So I thought it was a great way to honor his late brother. Our next match is a proving ground match for the ROH World Title. Anthony Henry challenges Eddie Kingston. I think this match was pretty interesting because there was some good moments, but however, you know that Eddie Kingston is in a lot of pressure knowing that he has to keep continuing to win in the Continental Classic, but he was able to put away put away put away Anthony Henry with the stretch plum and pick up the win. However, at Collision, he will face his Daniel Garcia, who showed up. So basically, we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match is our main event, the Ring of Honor Women's World Title. Billy Starks takes on Athena. You know this match was going to be interesting, a fantastic storyline. I mean, you probably would have assumed Billy Starks would have won because, you know, she was like the ultimate underdog, as you probably pictured it. But unfortunately, Athena was able to defeat her by submitting her. However, Billy Starks refuses to extend the code of honor and walked away. And then Athena did not like that, but she got into her face telling her, I did everything for you. And then, of course, they hugged it out like everybody were asking for, and it did. So I think this was a pretty good pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. I did like a lot of good matches on this one. So I think this is pretty much it with 2023 for the Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2024. But right now, as you know, 2023 is not over yet, so let's move on with AEW Collision. Okay, our last review, AEW Collision. Now it opened up with more of the Continental Classic Blue League. We have Claudio Castagnoli taking on Andrade. Now keep in mind, Andrade is currently in the lead with 9 points. Claudio, on the other hand, was at 3. So you can tell this match was fantastic. But also something I did not realize, this is practically much of a revenge match for Claudio Castagnoli. Keep in mind, it was Andrade who defeated Brian Keith in the last time in the last match they had. However, I think this was a perfect opportunity for revenge. But however, I think many of us might have thought Andrade would have walked away with the win. However, it was Claudio with the Gotch style power driver that put away Andrade that picked up the win. Next up, we have Abaddon versus Jasmine Allure, who we just witnessed at the 0 hour of Ring of Honor's final battle. I thought it was interesting that she would be there, but of course, Abaddon was going to pick up the win when she applied the Black Dahlia and won the match. However, post match, the lights turned off. Julie Hart showed up out of nowhere, and of course, Abaddon decided not to play her little games. And all of his sons, Sky Blue, showed up and helped Julie Hart. We don't know what's going on, but someone had enough to see this 2-on-1 beatdown, and that is, of course, the return of Thunder Rosa. I think many of us did not anticipate that. She was doing Spanish commentary, so basically she decided enough is enough. I'm going to step in and whoop some ass, and that's exactly what happened. So those two will team up at at Dynamite, I believe. So we'll see what happens till then. Now, it's been a while since we saw the Acclaim where Ned Paquette conducted an interview. Keep in mind they're not happy how things ended up the last time we saw them. Now, the last time we saw them, they were beaten by the Henchmen. Now, Max did say that he did like MJF, but however, we don't know what was going on. So they blamed him for putting themselves in harm's way. But however, Anthony Bowens did state it that it's going to be search and destroy against the devil and his henchmen. However, as you know, I talked about this before, and this was talked about this on AEW Dynamite on Rampage, that we did see how Top Flight and Action Andretti could be potentially targeting for the AEW Trios titles. That's something I'm sure many of us happened, and it did. So they issued a challenge. Anthony Bowen said it's not going to happen today, but it will happen next week. So looking forward to that. Now our next match is the AEW International title. Orange Cassidy versus Brian Keith. You know this is going to be one good match. Not to mention, will the bounty hunter collect? Well, that's a good question. I mean, there were some interesting moments, but however, Orange Cassidy was unable to apply the orange punch, but he was able to apply the mousetrap, which was a bit of effective into retaining the title. And of course, Brian Keith gave him the hat, and same thing with Orange Cassidy, but with the glasses, like just like that. Now, during a video package by Miro, it appears he had enough of trying to avoid Andrade. So the real question is, what is he gonna do? As you know, Andrade has been successful. However, as you know, he is currently in the lead in the Continental Classic with Miro. It's only a matter of time until he snaps and proceeds Andrade. Now, Commander, as you know, had one hell of a match in final battle. Apparently, he did not win, but all of a sudden, he got in the face of Roderick Strong, who says that people say that his match was good, but he lost. However, he told him that his next victim would be Commander. Commander's like not amused about it, so he said he'll see him on Wednesday. Now, FTR comes out to do a promo calling out the House of Black to find out what is going on, like why you guys are attacking us and all this other stuff. However, Once again, the mind games with House of Black continues on. So basically, we don't know what's their motives, but I'm sure it's not that good. But we'll see where that leads us from there on. So we'll just wait and see. Now our next match is a street fight, or should I say, a Texas street fight. Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale taking on Diamante and Mercedes Martinez. Now you know this is gonna be crazy. I mean, we saw tables, we saw chairs, we saw chains, we saw thumbtacks, everything that you know they're gonna tear themselves out. Now, last time I remember seeing Willow Nightingale when she teamed up with Ruby Soho to take on Ty Mello and Anna Jay. That was a brutal match, but I'm sure Willow Nightingale hasn't forgotten. But the most craziest thing, we saw that Willow Nightingale got put through a table when she got powerbombed by Mercedes Martinez. However, it was Chris Allen that picked up the one when she applied like a disc lariat onto Diamante. Then one, two, three. Good night, Diamante. Just like that. Now, Renee Paquetta conducts an interview with Tony Storm about this Wednesday between Rio and Saraya. Whoever will walk out as the winner, the challenger for the AEW Women's World Title. However, Mariah May said she's still working on her license here in the States, but she said that she would like Tony Storm to commentate, be commentator for her match, but she said she was busy. So we'll see what happens. You know, the old saying goes, don't meet your heroes. Now, we do see a bit of a match between Brian Keith and Carl Wright. Well, I can tell you this match ended with Brian Keith and this and that. However, um, after Brian Cage won the match, Keith Lee shows up and he says that his patience are running out, so he's calling him. So he's referring to Swerve Strickland. We don't know why, but we do know. But it seems like he's calling him out. Not sure, but we'll see. Now, our next two matches are part of the Continental Classic Blue League. First, we have Eddie Kingston versus Daniel Garcia. Of course, we're going to see a really good match. Of course, Matt Menard, who's watching once again, who's not a fan of Garcia doing his dance during his match, but it may have cost him. But it was the back fist by Eddie Kingston to pick up the win. So he walked away with another 3 points with a total of 6. And as for Garcia, still at 0. Our next match, we have Bryan Danielson taking on Brody King. However, Brody King in this particular match brutalized Bryan Danielson when he attacked his eye. As you know, that's part of a bullseye for any opponent who's willing to challenge him. But it was to boost Psycho knee to the back of the head by Danielson to King to pick up the win. And now he gains 3 points with the total of 9, tying with Andrade. As for Brody King, he only has 6. So we'll see what happens until then. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be another tiebreaker, but anything could happen. But right now, I think that's pretty much it with AEW. I believe also it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. As you know, I haven't seen much of the earlier stuff from this month, such as Black Label Pro, the season finale by Wrestling Revolver, and a few others. So we'll see where that leads us right now. So got a lot of things that I need to finish, and all this and that. We'll see where that leads. Right now, I'm just gonna wing it for Sunday. So I think that's pretty much it for now. But I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.